Welcome back to my channel. My name's Paige and it's finally time for my August wrap up. Now, it feels like forever since I've been stood in front of a camera talking to you, because my last few videos were pre-filmed because I was on a road trip with some friends. Yeah, it feels like it's been forever, but for you guys it's been normal, so this is kind of weird. Now, this wrap up feels a bit weird because most of the books I read were for videos and were ebooks, so the only books that I actually have to hold up and show you are these two. Now, in the month of August, I read 14 books. So it was, when I say 14 books, it sounds like a really good month. But then I think about the fact that 9 of those were for my Sherlock Holmes readathon, and 4 of them were for my trying historical romances. So it's kind of unimpressive. In general, it was a bit of a meh month. You know, like I don't think I really read anything that really stood out that was a huge like 5-star read, you know, it was all just a bit meh. I'd like to preface this video now with it's September, which means I'm going back to uni. I'm going back to uni on the 12th of September and my reading is going to drop down exponentially. I'm in my final year of uni, I've got a dissertation to do, I have a job, my reading's going to drop off, and in all honesty I don't know if I'm still going to be able to post twice a week. I will still be posting consistently, but we'll have to see, we'll have to play it by ear as to whether I drop down to once a week, whether I can stick at 2. For the first few videos that I'm back at uni, the video quality might be awful. I don't know what lighting's going to be like in my new room. I may have to wait for ring lights to arrive. Unfortunately, just cannot know these things in advance, so you'll have to bear with me. Hopefully we can figure it all out together. I'm hoping planning will be the saviour of my year. Anyway, 14 books this month. Let's talk through them. The first 9 were the entire Sherlock Holmes collection, and I really thought this was going to set my month off amazingly. I was like, cool, I read 9 books in 24 hours. I'm going to have such a good reading month. And then I just didn't read. Sorry, I just didn't. If you want more in-depth thoughts, probably go watch that video. August kind of feels like it's passed in a week and also like it's been 3 months in one. I don't really remember my thoughts. This video feels like 3 months ago, but it wasn't. I remember that A Study in Scarlet I loved, and I remember that The Hounds of the Baskerville was amazing for me to read as someone who studied Gothic literature because I could really like pick out those key elements, but I read it way too late at night, so I kind of missed that. These books are definitely way too repetitive to be read. All of them in 24 hours. Just don't do it. Please just learn from my mistakes and take it 1 book at a time. Or even 1 short story at a time. The next 3 books that I read and finished this month were for my trying historical romances video. So the first book in that video is Desperate Duchesses by Eloisa James. I remembered really enjoying it, but thinking it was very confusing at the beginning and just way too many irrelevant plot points. You know, there was a lot of chess, which I wasn't quite sure I got the relevance of all the chess. I remember also there were a lot of storylines in Desperate Duchesses, and if you're someone who wants a really, really fleshed out historical romance, I definitely read it. However, I didn't. I was just there for the romance. I only cared about that romance storyline. So all the other chapters were really irrelevant for me. But I might buy the others in the series and I might like them. We'll see. The next book in that video was My Fake Rake by Eva Lee, and this was as bad as was expected. I only bought this book because the love interest was an anthropologist. I study anthropology, I thought I would vibe with it. I really did not. The ending was awful. It wasn't even the tiniest bit historical. If you took a modern, like, rom-com, think of that ending. That was this book. I don't want to spoil it, but I basically just did because every rom-com ends the same way, and this was that. Next was The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare, and this was Chef's Kiss. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed this one. It's a marriage of convenience, which is a trope I've now discovered I love, and it jumps right in with that marriage of convenience. It doesn't keep you waiting to get to the meeting. They just meet and then it's instant, and then you're like, yes, okay, we're getting into the romance straight away. The other thing I particularly enjoyed about The Duchess Deal was that when our characters got together, they pretty much stayed together. You know, there were little dramas and arguments, etc., as is expected in a romance novel. You need to keep me interested somehow. But it wasn't major things that annoyed me. I really hate when characters that I'm rooting to be together are like together and then I can just kind of predict exactly what's gonna go wrong, and it's always some huge major thing that takes half the book to resolve, and I love that, but it also really upsets me and stresses me out to read, so I appreciated that this didn't do that. The next book that I read this month was Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness, and this is the second book in the All Souls trilogy. I've spoken about the series before. It is the supernatural romance we've all been waiting for since Twilight. This book is about a witch and a vampire falling in love when they're not allowed to. It's really like based on history of science and history of philosophy and stuff like that, because Deborah Harkness, the author, is a historian of science, and so everything is just really, really interesting to read. She really knows what she's talking about. There are some really, really minor details in here that really add to the story. And this book in particular I was very excited to read because this is set in the past. This is set in Elizabethan England. So I was expecting this to be like a 6-star read. And, you know, I think it's more like a 3 or a 4. I'm gonna give it a 4 because I did really enjoy it. However, I think this book is just quite overwritten. It worked in the first book because there was so much information we needed to know. But in this book, it just kind of seems like Harkness is just putting historical details in just to show off that she knows these historical details. I don't think they add to the plot in any way. And I'm really enjoying reading it. It is interesting to read for that. But in terms of getting to the plot and getting through the book, it's not relevant. And so it's a little bit annoying, and why this isn't a 5-star, even though I really expected it to be, because it's historical fantasy romance backed up by science and history. Sadly, it's just overwritten. And the final book that I read this month is The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. This is the sequel to The Duchess Deal, and this follows one of the ladies that we meet in the first book, and she actually meets her love interest in the first book, but nothing comes of it, and then they meet again in this book. I personally didn't enjoy this one as much as The Duchess Deal, but I think I love The Duchess Deal so much because it's a marriage of convenience, and this doesn't have that trope. It's an enjoyable trope. Basically, our main character in this book is like a lady, and she takes care of herself. She works to earn her own money. For that, she's single, and she basically ends up becoming a governess for her love interest, who is in line to be a duke. And it was cute. It gave me all the historical romance that I wanted. The characters were just as lovable. Tessa Dare writes really lovable characters. Yeah, there was just something about it that I didn't love as much as The Duchess Deal, and I think the love interest in this book was more of a douchebag than the guy in the first book. However, I will continue to be reading Tessa Dare books because I've discovered I love them. Okay, and so those are all of the books that I read this month. I guess it's a tiny bit cheaty to count these as 9. But they are 9 books. There's 9 books down the side. 3 of the books are a collection of short stories. It counts as 9. If I had the 9 individual copies, we'd count it. It feels cheaty because they're all in one binder. As I said, it feels like a very disappointing month because I can't see the 15 books that I've read because they're all on my phone or in a big binder, and most of them were just very meh. It is a little bit in my head to classify a good reading month as the amount of books that I read. But this month has kind of proven that a good reading month also depends upon how good the quality of the books that I'm reading are. Because I don't think I will be reading this many books in a month for a very long time, with my final year of university about to start. So it's reassuring to know that as long as I'm reading good books, it will still feel nice. So if anyone has any tips for how to manage reading and creating content for YouTube whilst in a very important academic year, please leave your advice down below. I would really appreciate it. It is something I'm stressing about, but I know at the end of the day, if I plan my time accordingly, I can get it done. I just hope that I don't have to miss weeks or anything in the process of figuring it out. Thank you very much for watching this video and for sticking around this long. I know this hasn't been a great month or a great video because I didn't have much to show you, but hopefully you guys would have seen the videos where I talked about these books in way more depth, and you enjoyed those too. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, I post lots of bookish content, and I have no intention of stopping posting it soon, so if you enjoyed this, you may as well check out some of my other videos and see if you want to stick around. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!